So, peace to the viewers. Welcome to Moorish State Republic study session. So, before we go into what's on the screen, the reason I find this is a good area to start off with is France versus United States of America case. Just as other Moors who are learning international law find this important because in this whole case, even though this is not the case on the screen, um, but the whole concept of this case is a good kickstart for what we are to do first. Especially learning government. It's a lot of base ground level things, gems that we can pick up on to establish ourselves. So the reason we're going into this is because just to lay it flat and clear. And if anybody has any questions or comments, just please just chime on in. The reason we're starting off here is because it's the most recent um, aspect for us Moors in what we're to do. So there was a French versus United States of America court case in 1952 that's pretty recent, to whereas everything else has been prior to that pretty much. Not everything, but a lot of things in regards to us. So this case sheds a lot of light on the true standpoint of us in international law, in our position, France's position, United States position, i.e. United States of America. So just a few more sentences on this before we start to read. France is the protectorate over Moroccan affairs. There was called a power of attorney over Moroccan affairs. Why? Well, we'll be going in on, several books, international law documents, even this case, throughout the weeks, shedding light on why. But primarily it's because the Moroccan Empire was falling. So in 1912, we have what's called the Treaty of Fez, in which in Article 6, you'll find that France actually became protectorates or power of attorneys over Moroccan affairs, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I definitely suggest everybody write notes on as we go through this document, especially, maybe jot down, paragraph 1 and 2 talks about XYZ, just kind of sum it up, instead of, writing every point, or do what works for you. So the Treaty of Fez, right, established France as protectorates over Moroccan affairs, or power of attorney over Moroccan affairs. Now, this treaty is not for them to uplift us as a state government. This their mediumship with us is just to make sure Moroccans and European powers are at peace. So we're to uplift ourselves by the bootstraps, really. So don't expect to, too much, basically. So France took United States of America case because they were the power of attorney over the Moroccan affairs, the Moroccan government. So which leads to the 1952 France versus United States of America case, right? In which that you'll see as we go into this, the Moroccan government, or the Sultan of Morocco, right, is not there. Now keep in mind, in 1952 was the case, right? But in 1956 is what happened. Morocco got their independence. They came known as the Kingdom of Morocco. But the Moroccan Empire is still here. So what happened? So it's we're going to get clear into this court case. And that's why this court case is so important, because the Kingdom of Morocco became a third party state, right? They became a statewide third party state because the treaty was bilateral. So therefore, to create another state, or to be just like how we are, right? The Moroccan Empire, our government failed. And the United States of America, they ain't even in office right now. They pretend to be United States. So it's really nobody on either side. To which, in order for us to enforce the treaty, we would be third party states, because that's the treaties that give us our authority to do this, right? So Morocco, Kingdom of Morocco, how did they become Kingdom of Morocco? Well, we're going to get further into detail, but just to say this, none the least, um, they became a third party state by following modern international law. So the old way we was running government, it wasn't a modern state government. It wasn't under modern international laws, right? It was the history of how international law wasn't because of Islam. Islam didn't start that. It was the Christian European powers that came together and had to decide how to join together. In which that's the whole reason why pretty much we're learning government from the European, because it represented a certain type of fall on our standpoint. So just going into more about how they became a kingdom or a state, their own state government. We'll go more into that, but keep that in the back of your heads as far as reading this treaty, because that's one of the cornerstones. So again, this treaty is over France versus United States of America, but it's supposed to be Morocco, the Sultan of Morocco there. But he acquiesced. He was compromised. Compromised by who? The United States of America, right? The several officials, the several presidents over time. They said, hey, basically, if you don't show up to this case, we'll promise you support of your own state government, because this treaty is between who? Sultan of Morocco, United States of America. So that's exactly who's being compromised. But why is it being compromised? Why does the Sultan have to be compromised? Right? Because France became power of attorney over what's over there called the Kingdom of Morocco, right? As well as this land. So they became power attorneys of Morocco, the empire. And the Sultan didn't like that. The foot was on their necks. Sultan didn't like that. Right? So the United States of America said, look, we got a strong grip over here on this land. You're in Africa, but this is all Moroccan Empire. France has a different aspect with you, even though it's all the Moroccan Empire. But we have a grip on the Moors here. So how about this? We can cut a deal. Because France, they trying to make United States of America the subjects, because if they're subject to the Moors, if United States of America is subject to the Moors, right, and the Moors, our affairs are now in the hands of France, then guess who else has to fall in line? United States of America. They subject to France too. So they like, no. Look, we got our own problems, and the Sultan got his own problems. Let's cut a deal. How about this? How about you not show up, as long as you don't say nothing, right? Acquiesce, and you can form your own state government, because you're the Sultan. If we agree, then there we go. The treaty is bilateral, right? So only so many state governments, so many nations, so many states, right? They can only do so much. All these other states, they can only do so much because the treaty is between two parties, right? even with this Treaty of Fez. It's a treaty, Moorish treaty, right? Got to do with Moors. So we're gonna get more clarity as we go through this case. So let's just start off with this. What's on the screen? This is the French Protectorate of Morocco, the relinquishment of extraterritorial jurisdiction by certain foreign powers, attitude of the United States. So we're talking about, the relinquishment of jurisdiction again, 1956. This is where all this stems from. So to get that complete understanding, this is what we be starting off with now. So it says the French ambassador of the Secretary of State to the Secretary of State. So this is France. Mr. Secretary of State, by order of my government, I have the honor to communicate herewith to Your Excellency the text of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty that was signed at Fez on March 30th, 1912. The assurances Your Excellency was pleased to give me hereto as to the establishment of the French Protectorate in Morocco lead me to hope that the federal government will see no objection to giving its adhesion to that instrument. The French government will be glad to be assured. Your Excellency will note that the Article 6 of the aforesaid treaty, so Article 6 of the Treaty of Fez, right? It says, Article 6 of the aforesaid treaty, the diplomatic and consular officers of France will be in charge of the representation and protection of Moroccan subjects and interests abroad. So that's what Article 6 says. France is in charge of the Moroccan subjects. So keeping in mind this term, Moroccan subjects, right? Because Moroccans should be nationals, right? We shouldn't be why are we subjects? Why are we considered subjects? Because we've been subjugated. So that's what's going on right here as far as this terminology. More subjects having to be protected by another government, in which they call proteges. But before we get to that term, we're more subjects and not nationals. Because in this standpoint, what happened? The United States of America already took over, right? They're the de facto government in which the the Moroccan subject is not the as many of you know, the subject is not the highest status of law in government. Even a citizen is higher than that, right? But when we're talking about subjects, we're not talking about our highest and divine order. So let's continue reading. It says a limitation, however, was put on a provision by the Franco-Spanish Treaty of November 27th, last of which I had the honor to communicate to the Department of State on the 29th of the same month. Article 23 of that treaty provides that the Moroccan subjects belonging in the French zone, in the zone of the Spanish influence shall be placed abroad under the protection of the diplomatic and consular officers of Spain. So we have Moroccan subjects under Spain's jurisdiction in the Moroccan Empire. So at this time we have French dominions, we have French jurisdiction, we have Spanish jurisdiction, right? And so they're talking about what jurisdiction the Moor subjects are under, right? So far. So again, Moor should be under their own Moroccan government as Moorish nationals. So they're fixating what's going on. Okay. Even though things are out of whack. So this is the Secretary of State to the French ambassador. Okay. And before I read this, we gotta keep in mind that the United States of America, they don't just speak fact. They don't speak truth all the time. Okay, so don't get confused thinking that, what they're saying is the actual truth, in which they're trying to throw trick bags. Okay. So if you get confused, just try to use that as your practicing your counterintelligence as you read this, if you will. So they go to say, Excellency, I have the honor to acknowledge the receipt of Your Excellency's note of the 8th instant, transmitting the text of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty, signed at Fez on March 30th, 1912, and asking the adhesion of the government of the United States thereto, following the tradition American foreign policy, which forbids participation of the United States in the settlement of political questions which are entirely European in their scope. The government must refrain from any expression of opinion for or against such part or parts of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty as may be deemed of a political nature. So what's going on so far? They're saying that they're refusing to weigh in on it, okay, for reasons unknown yet until we read further. But that they refuse to weigh in on it, right? They're saying they must refrain from expression. So it says paragraph 1 of Article 1 of this treaty provides that the government of the French Republic and His Majesty of the Sultan mutually agrees to establish in Morocco such administrative, judicial, educational, economical, financial, and military reforms in the French government may deem it desirable to introduce in Moroccan territory. And further, paragraph 2, Article 5 provides that the French commissioner resident shall be the sole intermediary of the Sultan in all foreign relations. By the terms of Article 1, the government of the French Republic particularly assumes that the powers of the government in Morocco, and as natural corollary thereto, it assumes also the obligations of the Moroccan government in the relations with this foreign government insofar as exist treaty rights between Moroccan and foreign governments are concerned. As Your Excellency is aware, adhesion of part of the government of the United States to any treaty under our Constitution can only be given with the advice and consent of the United States Senate. So basically what they're saying, according to their Constitution, everything has to go through their Senate, even with the Treaty of Fez. So the United States saying they need our permission. Okay, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the Moroccan government, where they at, all this type of stuff, right? The United States of America saying, look, we got a hold of these Moroccan subjects. According to our Constitution, things need to go through our Senate. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying we need to do according to our instructions, right? So, where was it? It goes on to say, okay, after careful consideration of the Franco-Moroccan Protectorate Treaty, this government is of the opinion that it's not sufficiently detailed and concrete in its provisions to permit the submission of this country's treaty-making power. Provided, however, the government of the French Republic is willing to give its assurance that American interests and rights in Morocco. So we have two different Americans aren't Moors, and Moors aren't Americans, right? Americans have interests and rights in Morocco, right? Morocco is a land, America's not. We're in Morocco, as are at present safeguarded by existing treaties, shall continue to receive the same consideration in the future as they have been entitled to and have enjoyed in the past. On such an understanding, the government of the United States would be inclined to view with favor the reforms which the French Protectorate contemplate introducing into Morocco as provided for in the treaty in question. So they're basically saying, hey, you guys have a jurisdiction here in Morocco. If you guys want to enforce these Moroccan laws, you can in your jurisdiction in Morocco. Meanwhile, everybody else must go through our Senate, according to our Constitution. I'm talking like I'm in the United States. So that's what they're saying so far, right? Which is totally out of place. Now, this is France responding. Mr. Secretary of State, by order of my government, I have the honor to forward herewith to Your Excellency 2 copies of the official bulletin of the Morocco Protectorate promulgating the new judiciary system in the French zone of the Sharifian Empire. So this is actual international documentation calling this land the Sharifian Empire, right? No random book by some English author, right? Together with a copy of the Journal Official of the French Republic of September 9, 1913, which also contains the decree relating to that organization. The new judiciary system instituted by virtue of the provisions in paragraph 2, article 9 of the Franco-German Treaty of November 4th, 1911, is intended to supersede the French consular courts on and after October 15, 1913. In accordance with the provisions of the aforesaid article, I have been instructed to ask the federal government to place its citizens under the new jurisdiction. I shall hasten to forward to my government to reply to Your Excellency will be so good as to return to me on this subject. So they're saying that, hey, federal government, United States, the citizens, in which they encompass the citizens, they deem the subjects and the protectorates or the proteges, as citizens. So that's all one thing, which we'll further read and understand that. So they're basically saying all these so-called citizens of the United States of America, or United States, which they calling out both of them actually, but these citizens of the United States are supposed to be under this French jurisdiction, right? According to Article 9, Paragraph 2, according to the French, the Treaty of Fez. What did the Franco-German Treaty do? The Franco-German Treaty basically made Germany, it made Germany basically have to comply with all of the powers of France as they were the powers of attorney in Morocco. So what, to make sure everybody was on the same page here, right? So okay. Now this is the United States responding to France. Okay. So we already said that, basically they just putting the facts on the line. The response wasn't even long. They said, look, your citizens are supposed to be under our jurisdiction according to the treaty. What are you talking about? There's nothing to argue about. There's nothing to refute here, right? The United States responds, the department has the honor to make reply to the embassy's notes on August 29th, September 14th, October 7th, and January 7th. Last relative to the establishment of the French Protectorate in Morocco and the revision of the list of American proteges in that country. Okay, so let's pause. American proteges in Morocco, in that country, right? We're in Morocco. We're this continent. That's a continent. But talking about jurisdictions, we're talking about different countries, different states. Okay, so American proteges they're being protected by Americans, right? The Americans are in Morocco, but are the Americans Moors? No. Are the Moors Americans? No. They're saying Americans are in Morocco, so they're United States of America, right? Their limited jurisdiction is in Morocco. That government, the Sultan of Morocco, right? In which that is another story as to how the how the Moroccan Empire, how the Sultan even got involved or was allowed to govern our affairs all the way over here in another landmass. That's another topic which we have to get more into history outside of this case. But to continue reading, it says in the first note above mentioned, the department is informed in relation to the establishment of the French Protectorate that owing to the inadequacy of the means theretofore employed to prevent the smuggling of arms and munitions of war into Morocco, General Layudi had decided to declare martial law within the zone of French influence in Morocco in the matter of contraband and arms. In the informal note of September 14th, Mr. Peretti, who was then acting as the charge d'affaires ad interim, made known the wish of the government, that is, the government would give instructions to its representative at Tangier, looking to the designation of a delegate to assist in the revision of the protection list of people lying under the American jurisdiction. So far, this charge d'affaires, or this official of the French government, right, was instructed to be a representative of the Tangier. And so that representative, right, that official, that charged their affairs, right, since they were the power of attorney of Morocco, Tangier was in Morocco, right? So them being a representative, they had to establish a list, a protection list of people lying in American jurisdiction. So the United States of America is supposed to give up a list of all people, right? People in which they don't have humans. They're all corporations, right? So they're supposed to give a list of all people, right? What was that? People lying under the American jurisdiction, right? So it goes to say, Mr. Peretti added that it was not possible to accept the reserve of the United States relative to the right of foreign representative to the act in the last resort upon the right of the foreign representative to in the last resort upon the decision of the Moxen. So the Moxen means Moroccan government, right? That's the word for Moroccan officials, Moroccan government. In regard to the natives who should enjoy the protection of a foreign government. So the protection of a foreign government is what a protege is, right? You're being protected by a foreign government. Okay, that means you must follow the laws of that government, because you don't have a government of your own to enforce laws, right? You're being protected by another state. So it says, with his note of October 7th, Mr. Peretti transmitted to the department copies of the official bulletin of Morocco Protectorate, promulgating the new judiciary system in the French zone of the Sharifian Empire. That Sharifian Empire again. Mr. Peretti called attention to the fact that the new judiciary system was intended to supersede French consular courts on and after October 15, 1913, and under instructions asked this government to place its citizen under the new jurisdiction. Finally, with your note of the 7th of January last, you transmitted to this department a list of errata to the bulletin official and requested that the new French courts in Morocco be recognized at the earliest possible date. Turning first to the subject of the revision of the protege list. So they said, well, turn it first to this list, this protege list, right? These people protected in y'all government. Because now they started it by now, 1912. Remember, this is time frame, 1912, 1913. They catching on as to the United States being a corporation. They're catching on to them debasing themselves, devaluing themselves in order to get some type of thing established. So France is catching them trying to run from their obligations, really, right? So they say, look, give us this protege list, right? It says, mentioned in Mr. Peretti's note of September 14th, it is proper to state that the protection of the native Moors in Morocco by this government rests upon the Treaty with Morocco of 1836 and the Madrid Convention of 1880. So the protection of native Moors in Morocco by way of this government, right? They're talking about the United States, America, and especially France. But the United States of America, right? If we want to realize our protection in Morocco as Moors in relation to any of these governments, we are to look up the Madrid Convention of 1880 and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship in 1836. So this gives us instructions as far as protection, right? And if we're even aligned right. So it goes to say the relevant part of the Treaty of 1836 is found in Article 15, which reads as follows. So this is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Merchants of both countries shall employ only such interpreters and such other persons to assist them in their business as they shall think proper. The Convention of 1880 declares in Article 1 that the protection of native Moors is based on the British and Spanish treaties with Morocco, and on the Convention of 1863 between France, Morocco, and other powers, with the modifications introduced by the present convention, and stipulates in Article 16 that the authorities of Morocco will recognize no protection of any kind whatever save such as is expressly provided for in this convention. So in this 1836, right, or 63, excuse me, it was established that Morocco, right, will recognize no protection. So at this time, 1863, this is before 1912, right? That Morocco didn't need protection. Okay. So when we talk about the Treaty of Fez, what we have to do is that if we're focusing on Treaty of Fez, we have to keep working ourselves back until we then again we don't have a power of attorney, because before that we have a treaty says we needed no protection. But in order for us to work back into our original state, we got to establish ourselves as state governments first, right? And handle a due process of law accordingly. Okay. Um, so we can't jump the line here. It goes to say, after a careful examination of the several articles of Madrid Convention relative to the protection of American proteges, and the department is unable to reach the conclusion that the Moorish government enjoys the rights ultimately to decide upon the persons who may become proteges of this government. So right there, let's go over that again. After a careful examination of several articles of the Madrid Convention relative to the protection of American proteges. Who are the American proteges? The Moors. The Moors are being protected by Americans. Those are American proteges. So we have several articles in the Madrid Convention of 1880 talking about protection, right? Not United States codes, not United States ordinances. We can't exercise those, right? But we'll talk about that another time. So it says the department is unable to reach the conclusion that the Moorish government enjoys the right ultimately to decide upon the persons who may become proteges of this government. So the Moorish government is to decide who becomes American proteges, not the Americans, nobody else but the Moorish government. But where is the Moorish government, right? So at this time, this is not the case yet. This is in 1912, 1913. But they didn't realize that in 1952, the Sultan of Morocco was going to acquiesce, Muhammad V, right? They were unaware of that. The time didn't come. So far they're saying a Moroccan government, even according to our own treaties, if anybody wants to leave a Moroccan government, if anybody wants to say, hey, you know what, I want to be a United States citizen, I want to be an American citizen, I don't care what the treaty says, right? In order for them to lawfully make that decision, they would need the permission of a Moroccan government to do so, just like any other government would handle their citizens, their nationals, right? So if a Chinaman from a Chinese government wanted to come to America, be an American citizen, what we have to do? He would get permission, notice, right? All that from a Chinese government, take his oath and allegiance into the American government to be an American citizen, right? Or a United States citizen, or truthful. So, in which basically what they're doing is saying, hey, I had human rights, but I want to be part of the United States, and now I have no human rights. That's basically what people do when they come here. So, let's see, I forgot where I left off at. It says, okay. On the contrary, Article 2 of the Convention provides that the foreign representatives at the head of the legation may select their interpreters and employees from among the subjects of Morocco or others. And Article 3 provides that the consular officers shall be allowed to select their employees. By Article 5 of the same convention, the government of Morocco recognizes the right of ministers, charge d'affaires, and other representatives, which is granted to them by treaties to select the persons of whom they employ. In regard to the list of protected persons, they protected persons, they call them people in protected persons, right? You're gonna recognize in the case they say they're gonna call them United States, and they're gonna call them United States of America, and they'll even say quote unquote so-called states, because they know they're not de jure lawful state governments. So they say things like so-called states. So they crossing all T's and dotting all I's, saying we know who you are and what you're up to, right? But there's only so much these people can do. Only the Moorish state governments can stand up and truly change our position. That's who everybody is waiting on, right? I'm not sure if y'all familiar with Bobby Hemmett, but even he spoke on, everybody in this universe waiting on melanated people on this landmass in particular, in the universe, right? So, I always lose where I'm at. It says, in regard to the list of protected persons, the convention is equally precise as appears by Articles 7 and 8, which reads as follows. Article 7. Foreign representatives shall inform the Sultan's Minister of Foreign Affairs in writing of any selections of any employee made by them. They shall furnish annually to the said minister a list of names to the persons protected by them or by their agents throughout the states of the Sultan of Morocco. This list shall be transmitted to the local authorities, who shall consider as persons enjoying protection only those whose names are contained therein. So Article 7, right? Treaty Madrid. We're talking about a list of protected persons that's supposed to be given from the United States, i.e., United States of America, since they're the trustees of the United States of America, to the Moroccan government, right? Even though a charge d'affaires or a French official is acting as power of attorney, right? So Article 8 says, consular officers shall transmit each year to the authorities of that district in which they reside a list bearing their seal of the persons protected by them. These authorities shall transmit in the Minister of Foreign Affairs to the end that, if it be not comfortable to the regulations and representatives at Tangier, may be informed of the fact. A consular officer shall be required to give immediate information of any charges that may have taken place among the persons protected by his consulate. Okay. Regarding the appointment of protégés for signal services, the Convention provides, Article 16, that the Minister of Foreign Affairs at Tangier shall be previously informed of the nature of the services and notified in the intentions to award them, in order that he may, if need be, present his observations thereon. Yet the final decision shall be reserved for the government to which the service shall have been rendered. Concerning the protection of the native employees and protected persons, the Treaty of 1836 appears to contain no stipulation, but in Article 9 and 10 of the Convention of 1880 are found the following provisions. Servants, farmers, and other native employees of native secretaries, interpreters, shall not enjoy protection. The same shall be the case with Moorish employees or servants of foreign subjects. Nevertheless, the local authority shall not arrest an employee or servant of a native officer in the service of a legation or consulate, right? Or a foreign subject or protected persons without having notified the authority upon which he is dependent. If a subject of Morocco in the service of a foreign subject shall kill or wound any person or violate his domicile, he shall be arrested immediately, but the diplomatic or consular authority under which he is shall be notified without delay. And Article 10 goes to say, nothing has changed with regard to the situation of brokers as established by the treaties of the Convention of 1863, except which is stipulated relative to taxes in the following articles. Okay. So we're not going to read this whole thing, but so far, right? Let's see. I'm trying to see where. Okay, it's at the end. So we'll obviously have a few part series on this, but so far we have basically. It's not the right page. So far we have basically the Treaty of Madrid being mentioned, and several articles in the Treaty of Madrid are saying that this is how we weigh out our protection, right? So they're trying to get established based on these treaties the true position of these so-called American protégés and Moorish subjects who are protected by this foreign jurisdiction. right? So they bringing up all these points that mention subject, right? And you'll further read all these points where it says proteges, right? In all these treaties, to trying to figure out the true position of subject and protege. Okay. So real quick, does anybody have any questions, comments so far? We're gonna read a little bit more before we conclude this video.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No, it's sounding good right now. I'm following along. Same Islam.
Okay, so
brother, could you scroll back up to the top? Right before,
where
I
at?
think it was article 7 in that area. I think it was 7, 8, 9.
This right here, what's shown on the screen, 7 and 8.
Correct. Is that the full article? Article 8.
No, I don't believe it is.
Okay.
I think that's just part of it. But you can find if you go on Google.com and go to AMPAC's website, Allodium Moorish Pradium Ante Colorado, and then you'll see on their website it'll say I think it says a seed or a session, but I believe it said a seed. But you can click on the link where it says a seed, and it'll give a list of all the treaties in which you can look up that they acceded to. And in that list is the Treaty of Madrid. You can click on that link, and it'll all these treaties that we'll be going over. You could just use that page as a reference point for all the treaties.
Okay, appreciate
that. So this Treaty of Madrid, and later we'll learn that the Act of Algeciras as well is so important for Morocco as a state government, for us as a state government, for Moors in general. So let's see. Okay. Okay. It says, inasmuch as the Madrid Convention refers in Article 1 to the Convention of 1863 between France, Morocco, and other powers regarding the protection of native. Wait, did we just read this? Okay, no. Regarding the protection of native Moors into the British and Spanish treaties with Morocco on the same subject, it is appropriate to examine the provisions of these treaties on the subject. The provisions of the Convention of 1863 appear to be substantially the same as the regulations relative to the protection adopted by common consent by the legation of France and the government of Morocco, August 19th, 1863, reprinted in Treaties in Force 1904 at the end of the Madrid Convention. The regulations are in part as follows. Protected persons are divided into two classes. First class compromises native well, that part you can read on your own, because it's going in just on the protected list in which they can't give up. Because the United States of America, they're acting as the United States. There's several reasons they can't get this up. The United States is acting the United States of America, so it's nobody in the office of the United States of America, right? They all took oath to the Constitution of the United States, which is a corporation, right? So let's see. It goes on to say the British and Spanish treaties mentioned in Article 1 of the Madrid Convention are presumably the General Treaty of December 9th, 1856 between Great Britain and Morocco, and the Treaty of Commerce and navigation of November 20th, 1861, between Spain and Morocco. In the British treaty, it specifically provided that the charge d'affaires and the consular officers of Great Britain shall be at liberty to choose, in quotes, their own employees at the British subjects shall be free to commit their affairs to the management of any persons whom they may appoint as their broker, factor, or agent. Nor, says the treaties, shall the British subject be restrained in their choices of persons to act in such capacities. The Spanish treaty provides that the charge d'affaires or consul general may choose his interpreters and servants amongst the Muslim subjects, right? Muslim subjects, or amongst those of any other treaty, that the consular officers may name employees either Muslims or subjects of another country. Okay, so you see how the interchangeably using these words, right? Sharifian Empire, Moroccan Empire, Muslim subjects, right? So it says that the Spanish merchants may put their affairs into the hands of brokers or agents appointed by themselves, and they shall not be interfered with, nor shall obstacle be raised to the free choice of the persons to fulfill this charge. It would therefore seem that the choice of the protégés of the United States and Morocco rests by right of treaty, right? Okay, so it says it would therefore seem that the choice of the protégés of the United States and Morocco rests by right of treaty, ultimately with this government. Such appears to the view which the department has always taken of the Convention of 1880, which has been the basis of its actions in carrying out the revisions of the Convention. The question of the choice of the protégé is, however, in the view of this government, but a phase of a larger question involved in the establishment of the French and Spanish control over separate portions in Morocco. So basically, these American protégés, right, or Moorish subjects, they're saying that based on the treaty that the French and the Spanish have, and even Great Britain has, the United States is not in proper alignment with none of that. All those treaties that was just mentioned, right? So they're saying they have quite a few holes, but then as we learn that later on in time in the 1930s, that the Spanish relinquished their jurisdiction here in Morocco, and even Great Britain relinquished their jurisdiction here in Morocco, leaving France, the only people, the only nation, the only state, excuse me, with interest here on this land. So we're going to finish reading this page before we just tap into some Q&A, if you will. So it says, let's see. It would therefore seem that we read that. It says, on the subject of the French Protectorate, and this government has heretofore expressed itself as being in favor of the reforms in which the France contemplated introducing into Morocco, and according with the stipulations of the Franco-Moroccan Treaty of March 1912, on the understanding that the provisions made for the preservation of American interests and rights in Morocco, commercial or otherwise, which are at present safeguarded by existing treaties with the country, the more important of these interests and rights, it is proper now to enumerate. In the first place, and here it gets where it starts to get juicy. In the first place, attention may be drawn to the right of aliens to hold land in the Sharifian Empire. So they said it's a lot of things to pay attention to first, but truthfully, in the first place, attention may be drawn to the right of aliens that's holding land in this empire, the Sharifian Empire. So who are the aliens? The United States. It says this right appears now to be based on the provisions of the Madrid Convention and the Act of Algeciras. So they're saying, well, the core of this is in these two treaties. We know you have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? But as far as aliens having land, if you want to get particular, aliens having land in Morocco is based on these two treaties, the Madrid Convention or the Treaty of Madrid in 1880 and the Act of Algeciras.
That is big.
Very big. Very big. Because we can see that I shared that we went in on two study sessions as far as the Act of Algeciras, in which we'll go over again. But the Act of Algeciras is all about establishing Morocco as an independent state, right? So a Moorish state government. It's all about a state bank, the establishment of a state bank. It's all about taxes. It's all about putting policy enforcers into place, right? And a few other things. But as we read, it goes to say, with the few to carry out Article 60 of the Algeciras Act, the Sultan's foreign minister on December 5th, 1912, sent to the diplomatic courts at Tangier a set of regulations classifying the public domain of the empire and defining inalienable property and alienable property. Okay. So we're talking about Article 60 in the Act of Algeciras. These regulations also laid down certain rules to govern the sale of the latter class of property to foreigners. Just a second here. Let me get a charger. Using it. Go ahead. So it goes to say that okay, it says it is understood that the regulations are not entirely consistent with the provisions of the subject of land ownership in the Act of Algeciras and the Convention of Madrid. Under Article 11 of the Madrid Convention, the right of all foreigners to hold property anywhere within the empire is recognized, but the purchase of property must take place with the previous consent of the government, which has not happened. By Article 60 of the Act of Algeciras, or the Algeciras Act, this right was confirmed, and it was further provided that within the radius of 10 kilometers around the open ports and within 2 kilometers around the certain other towns, land might be acquired by foreigners without previous consent of the Moorish government. Okay, and that's what it says in the Act of Algeciras. So it says the proposed regulations define inalienable property to include guiche lands, the seashore, habeas or mosque properties, tribal lands, forest land, desert, uncultivated or ownerless lands, one bearing land, and escheated property. The department is advised that practically all the land within the 10-kilometer zone, especially at Tangier, is either guiche land or seashore. So that land that they can come in on is called geese land or Guiche land or seashore, right? So they come in right in off the seashore. Talking about stop here. Um, so let's see. We'll read it just a little bit more. It says, consequently, there would appear to be a little or no land lying within the 10-kilometer zones, with which may be subject to private ownership without consent of the Moorish government. Moreover, in one paragraph, the regulations recognize that the fact that under Article 60 of the Act of Algeciras, no authorization is necessary for the sale of lands within certain zones. And the next paragraph in regulations provide that the Qadi will approve no sale made to a foreigner unless the authorization according to the regulations has been granted by the Moxen or the Moroccan government. So we're talking about the judge and the Moroccan government, right? It would seem, therefore, that if the regulations are currently understood, an interpretation has been given to Article 60, which its terms would not be ordinarily bear. By the same regulations, the Moroccan government reserves the right to annul or to revise any deeds of so-called enabled property which may have been given prior to the date of regulations. The department is advised that much of the Guiche or seashore property, as well as other lands situated within the zones above mentioned, has long been held by private individuals under deeds legally obtained with the authorization of the responsible agents of the Moxen. We'll read this last paragraph. In view of this circumstance, it is difficult to believe that it is the intention of the Moorish government to consider these regulations as retroactive in their operation and as thereby divesting or giving opportunity to divest in land legally acquired and officially confirmed by the Moxen agents. Okay, so we'll take off we'll start off next time somewhere around this area. It may not be at the exact point, but I do encourage everybody to read this on their own as we further continue these classes. So just a quick recap. Things are trying to get situated. They're trying to get hashed out, right? We have more subjects and American proteges, right? These two terms that are trying to be established, trying to get hashed out as far as what their positions are, right? So it's not a good thing to be a Moorish subject or American protege, right? So what we have to get figured out so far is that a Moorish subject is under protection, and a protege is under protection of a foreign empire, right? And so a Moorish government is needed to not only enforce treaties, but it's needed to say, hey, if you want to be a part of another government, hey, my fault, y'all. My other phone died. But
said was you're part of another government. That's the last thing I heard.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, okay. So basically, what we got figured out is that in order to be a part of another government, you need permission from the original government you came from. So Moors, we know that we're not United States citizens, i.e., we're not American citizens or United States of America, all one title, right? Even though there's two different factions, same side of the coin. So we're not Americans in any type of way. So in order for us to say that we're more Moors, our government would have to be there. So we just got to look at the simple whole. We know our Moorish government has been dormant. That's the problem right there. So it's not deal with everything after that. It's reestablish that first, right? And then that way we can deal with who is who, if you want to stay a United States citizen or not, et cetera, right? So yeah, I just want to get these few points clear before we continue the case as far as the value, the weight, the true dominion of a Moor subject or a protege. Because coming into learning this, I was under the impression that Moor subject was good. Just thinking that the term Moorish or Moor was in a document, I'm like, oh, okay, they recognize this. Oh my goodness, I'm that. I'm Moor. I'm that. Yeah, whatever Moor is, I'm that. But after weighing out, what these terms mean, we find that they're not all. It's not all good, right? So I'll yield the floor with that and leave the floor open for question and comments before we close out.
Nah, that was smooth.
Right.
When's the next one's gonna be?
The next one, I'm not sure. We'll try to get a certain schedule. Try to see what works best for everybody. Still trying to formulate that. It'll most likely just be at random. Be on a few certain days every other week based on our schedules. So it may change between two certain days that we'll get familiar with. But I'll let everybody know for sure at least 2 days in advance.
And your inauguration is on YouTube, ain't it?
Yeah.
All right, I'm about to check that out.
Right on.
All right, peace.
And so as far as everybody else online who is not in Meru or so-called Indiana state territory, I definitely encourage, just reaching out to people in that state is one of the primary things to do, because as you can see, the knowledge is there. The knowledge is nothing to get to you. It's the people that i.e. the unity aspect is the hardest, right? So the knowledge is pretty much there, is being supported and nourished. We all anxious, we all ready to just send off the emails, give you all the answers that you need, etc. That can be done in a few steps. It's just the hardest part for a lot of us is finding the people on the same frequency to get things done, in which the prophet said you're going to be able to count on one hand, in which luckily that's all you need to start a state government. To start one at least, not to maintain one, of course. You know what I mean? Somewhere stressed out, you're trying to maintain a government off 3-4 people or whatever forever. But
it was encouraging to hear it only takes 3. You know what I'm saying? So 3 people in Kansas, you know what I'm saying? That's not, I ain't gonna say it's gonna be hard to find, but you know what I'm saying? 3 people is easier to find than 10, 15.
Right. And of course, you know, even that aspect, because I was talking to a more yesterday, um, in regards to how government is supposed to be operated, and you know, he was under the impression that you know we needed the people first. You know, and of course, literally, if you talk about literally the term people, yeah, you need the people because we are the people. It don't matter how many of us it is. It could be three of us. You know, those are the people, the elected ones, right? They chose themselves and then they elected each other and made a government. But as far as you know, trying to get everybody, or for the most part, most people on the wave first, and then taking the first step is where we messing up because you know then you're pretty much wishing on a star without enforcing any laws first. So you would have to be some type of attraction, basically, not working on different you know middle grounds to try to attract before you really get to where you should be anyway. You know, so a lot of Moors are trying to do business as an organization in the United States and saying, "Hey, look how you know I can ride with my plates and my IDs, and if I put them in this trust in the United States, look how easy it is. Look how I'm being respected." You just keep, but so
Do you have any
you know,
videos talking about that trust law, or trust putting things into a trust?
I did. Um, I deleted them because the information. Okay,
I'm gonna reach out to you. I'm gonna reach out to you, and I'm gonna see if you can send me that, please.
okay. Um,
Two
yeah.
part.
In regards to trust law specifically, um, when I was making videos on that, it was when I was under the impression. Okay, I'll be with you in a second. Okay. Uh, so I was under the impression that um, you know, we had to go through the United States, do the name change in the United States, do everything in their system, the United States, in which trust law is different. It's different when you handle it that way. So, just a second. Just a second. So, yeah. So as far as the trust law, basically, when it comes to the core principle of that, in which the only reason Moors are working with trust law and stuff like that right now. Well, let me just start off right at this point. I'm gonna just make it clear. Our core principle as far as working with trust is in the treaties. So how we should work with trust should all be based on the treaties. So learning trust law as far as how the US sets it up, the only reason we can establish ourselves as a more state government and continue to do everything we've been doing as if nothing happened. So you continue to go to work, you continue to food stamps, you continue anything in the United States because it's all unlawful right now. But you're this is all due to you being subjugated. So you got to go through a due process of law in order for things not to be like that. So you establish yourself as a state government, but in order to use the straw man and everything like that, and under a proper or any corporation in a proper context, you have to establish a state government, then move everything under the state government, then create the documents and all this type of stuff so you can show yourself as being a part of the state government, etc. You know, so the trust is like when you put trust in somebody, right? You lean into that person, right? So if we doing trust in the United States, we're putting energy into their stuff. So when we establish ourselves as a state government, and the reason why I say, you know, when we establish ourselves as a state government, there's only a certain time period to where we can work with the straw man how it is. Until we take him to court, things gonna change again. And then after a certain time period, things gonna change again, and so on and so on. So as far as the process of things, how it goes, is we establish ourselves as state government. You continue living life how you've been living life. Everything. Continue living life how you've been living life. Because us as a Moorish state government, as well as the other ones, are aiming for the head first. Right? We taking USA to court, everything else trickle down. Now, if you get pulled over by a policy enforcer, or want to go to your job or incorrect things, or etc., in which you're part and parcel to the government. Right? The government is the land, the everything, the state, right? It's the higher self and lower self, while the part, i.e. you as an individual, you can work on behalf of the state, right? So you can, you're a part of the state, right? The people that make the state. So, as far as the process, the realistic process, in one standpoint, it would be, again, to establish a state government, continue living life how you've been living life, because that it's kind of like money, currency. You wouldn't just say, hey, I have a treaty that says only gold and silver. So that means now that we state governments, from this day forward, if you talking about fiat notes, Federal Reserve notes, I ain't putting it in my pocket, type of thing. This ain't that. You know what I'm saying? It's a due process of law. So you keep doing what you've been doing until that law has been enforced, right? For you to work how, things should be. So jobs, money, food stamps, anything. You keep doing it how you've been doing it until we cross those T's and dot those I's, basically. Because you are already set up in a proper standpoint. Can't none of this affect you, no way. With straw man, it can't none of it affect you. In which the whole reason we take him into court is for that very reason, the straw man and all that type of stuff. So you keep doing what you've been doing till we take them to court, and we can prove to them what they've been doing and make things change, right? So that's why I say it don't matter if you handle it personally or not. I mean, it does. It's going to get taken care of anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because we take the United States of America to court, which is going to be at the ICJ. So as far as, doing things in the United States, and all that, it's still learning processes in that, of course. They teach us law, some law, trust, wills, how we can establish those things in our own governments, so they do teach a lot of stuff, but they'll never teach the highest of the highest frequencies of stuff. You know what I mean? They'll teach the middle area, if you will, but they'll never teach the highest of the highest degrees, i.e. like starting a state government, which is the first step,
I think that's a great point. I think we should take it for what it's worth, especially for those who are not or doesn't have any ties to a state government per se just yet. Just take advantage of the U.S. system and their structure, and then once we are established, we can make it our own by adopting, some of the structure as far as trust and whatnot. I think that's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I actually made a video on that last week, talking about exactly what you just said, working with what we have, especially as the United States, we can take that grain of salt and build on that. But in particularly, it's kind of like, that's very true. That's very true. At the same time, being that all the answers are here now for us to start a state government, it's me personally, I find in the sense that it's easier to start a state government than to do X, Y, Z in the United States, because just for the birth certificate alone, you got to do so much. And that's just one of many steps that you got to do in a stuff to establish those stuff. As far as,
so what's the process? I would say, what is your strategy as far as vetting others to become a state government? Because I'm sure, it's very important that you have competent individuals representing the government. I mean, we don't want to repeat history and be incompetent and lose everything that we had just by writing ourselves out of history or whatnot. So, I mean, like, what is your strategy as far as vetting individuals?
Me personally, I would say to go ahead with the state government portion, because I'll use this for example. Here in so-called Indiana, if I wanted to authenticate the birth certificate, it would take up to 3 months just to get a certain piece of paper back. So that's 3 months for one step of many steps that's not even, setting you up properly yet, So that's 3 months out of your time that you got to wait for. On top of, within that same step, you got to send it to the federal, send it to the state, notify them, all that type of stuff. And of course, there's many other ways to really, beat them in their own game, in their system, if you will. I don't want to say many ways, like it's so much, but every way is not the true way. I say it that way, but so here in Indiana, which is different from every other state, so-called state, is you got to wait up to 3 months just for that one process, let alone update to Social Security, do the whole name change thing, if you will, and all that. And that's outside of creating a trust and that type of stuff, so it's real tedious work when you want to move like that, which is more immediate because you by yourself. You don't need anybody else. You don't have to elect nobody and go through that, which is that's cool. But at the same time, it's kind of like once you get a job, and if you attempt, right, if you go into a temp agency, you don't have the benefits, or opposed to somebody who has the benefits, which one would you want? Would you want just I get paid weekly and because I get paid weekly and shit. I wish I could stay a temp forever, but you get hired in, you get paid every 2 weeks, but you get the benefits. It's kind of like, well, it's the mindset to really kind of make that person, I want the benefits because I got children. It's that more of adulthood mindset, if you will, that would make that person want that degree, opposed to working at a temp or whatever, hourly paid, get paid every week, and, the more immediate things, you know what I mean? So it's, pretty much, if it's, what's the statement or that quote? If something about, anyway, but, so that's pretty much how it is, in these times, especially knowing that we about to take United States of America to court. So the work, like you want to authenticate the birth certificate and all that type of stuff, it'll be like, damn, like you missing out on all of that. Like you missing out. You know what I'm saying? So we talking about court case, we talking about trillions of dollars, we talking about so much freedom, etc. To where, that person might not see that or understand that, and it might be like, yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and worry about myself and authenticate my birth certificate and all that type of stuff. In which nowadays they just get more petty and petty because these are just hamster wheels within hamster wheels, really. So, in every which way, if you want to act as your, it would be to act in alignment with the treaties. But even more so, if you want to act immediately and as your, it's really based on your confidence, because again, the knowledge can be broken down so easily and simple depending on who you talk to. You just gotta have that urge, that passion, that will to be able to reach out, et cetera, et cetera. In which that's really where people have lack of knowledge at. Is not in the knowledge of the actual history half the time, but their own mindset to go out and do something and act on something. So as we've seen today, we went through this case fairly easy, and the knowledge is broken down. It's pretty much, we figured a lot of this stuff was like this, just didn't know exactly how. But now that we know exactly how, it's going to take more of knowing exactly how. But in order to match that, because we don't want to be sitting on the couch just studying all for the rest of the year, not really acting on nothing. You know what I mean? It's a balance as to how we working with things, and that's why I pretty much trying to get everybody familiar with being outside of your comfort zone. As for confidence though, because again, we all in this together. Ain't no going back no more. Ain't no going back. Once we get this stuff established, even though incompetency is a hindrance, but the support system, the way we moving, etc., the way they put themselves out there to fall, you know what I mean? I'm talking about the United States. It's practically impossible for the United States or anybody else to lawfully come in and do what they do, even realistically, because so many nations are on our side as far as backing us up. And they know that they have to attack the United States of America in order for them to get anywhere. So if they want to attack the enemy, if my enemy is your enemy, we friends. At least for the time being. You know what I'm saying? So especially if this is the biggest pest in both of our lives. So when a certain standpoint come, we'll be a developed people, seeing it impossible and understanding it impossible for not only U.S. to invade our trees, because that's the whole reason why they haven't already. It's impossible to do. And if they're the biggest pests, they've been responsible for the killings. That means everybody else who is so-called in a way has to be lighter than them. And look where we at still establishing state government. So this pretty much is inevitable at this point. It was always inevitable, but just more clearly seen at this point that it's all about our confidence now. The whole world is waiting, saying, look, we done set out a whole bunch of stuff for y'all. Just call us up. You know what I mean? So it's really about just to psyche yourself out. I seen this is my last point. I remember Brother Panic going in years ago about trying to psych yourself into a higher frequency, trying to say, I'm a god or I'm a goddess. And he said for people who have this type of lack of confidence, what should go to sleep with a tape recorder that repeats, I am God, or I am a goddess, I am God, I am God, I am God. Whatever it takes for your mind to step into this frequency to make you wake up to say, you know what, my aura, my chest is poking out today. You know what I mean? Not in the sense of like, literally trying to act like you the big dog, but in a sense of security, stability, and purpose in yourself. Grasping your purpose, grasping it, not just saying you intent, you see the intent, you saying something, you literally grasping the intent, becoming one and comfortable with it, embodying yourself as that intent, right? So that way you can literally feel it emanate, like you start to do things unconsciously that's leading to your purpose to that point. So it's more so about just meditating on the law. We're in between worlds right now. You know what I mean? So it's the knowledge of our people and the knowledge of literally our own energy to make our energy match the information. The information can be all there all day, but if we're not wise enough, that means we never acted on it. Because we don't have the energy or the mindset to go out and do it yet. So that's pretty much where we're at. All the knowledge is there. The answers are there. We just gotta psych ourselves out. You know what I mean? Be like, you know what? I'm ready because my blood is ready. It ain't even my ego or my conscious mind. My blood, this is my seat, period. You know what I mean? Get out of my seat. I know that much, type of thing. And as long as you got your people supporting you, then, that's what the government is all about, the people, So I hope that pretty much answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that's gonna wrap up today's. If nobody has any of the comments, so again, and we can try to make it, every couple of days or every week, as far as reaching out to people in y'all territory, because again, that's first and foremost. You can watch 10 videos in one day and learn international law just like that. You know what I mean? Or at least so much of it. So, if nobody has any questions or comments, we can ease into the next phase of life off this call.
I think want to say definitely Islam. I think it was a good message, good teaching, and you covered some other various points that I'm glad you addressed, and gained some insight from today's meeting as well, and from others. Good. Peace to that, and blessings to come.
Right on. Okay, so nobody has anything else to say. May Allah bless you all.
You said you was gonna send off the papers tomorrow.
Yeah, yep. Papers tomorrow. I'm gonna send a video out to y'all. I'm gonna record it and I'm gonna record it and just send it to y'all. Let y'all know that. Also, we're gonna talk about us as a Moorish State Republic, making this a holiday and all this type of stuff, and just getting more familiar with and that's kind of pretty much for the legislative branch, or you would say the women, to kind of organize that part of government. But again, that's for all of us to do. So we can talk about that, and I'm gonna definitely send a video out to y'all tomorrow as soon as I do it.
For sure.
Yep. I had to post it on YouTube first to put the link in the Constitution, so that way they had to find it out and then to send it off. So I'm gonna send it off tomorrow.
You definitely clarify how much. See, I thought it was way more complex. You know what I'm saying? Prior to this session, I thought it was way more complex to start a state government. But I'm glad I tapped in though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people do, and you would think so. You would think so. You really would. So glad everybody tapped in. I'm proud of y'all. Straight up, ancient ones came straight back. You know what I mean? So with that said, may Allah bless you all. And I'll be in touch with our next study session and the time and date for that.
Peace and love, Mo.
All right,
Peace and
peace
love.
and love, man.